Hello friends, in the series on the income tax cases, today we will discuss one more case on explanation 3 to section 147. We have already made some videos on this concept, but the clarity of explanation 3 to section 147 is made more clear by this judgment of the Pune ITAT in the case of Sunanda Constructions versus Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax, and this case is reported in 127 ITR Tribunal, short notes 27, and the date of the judgment is 19th August 2025. In the present case, the issue before the Pune ITAT was that if the assessee case is reopened under section 147 read with 148 on the reasons that the assessee has claimed some bogus interest expenses, but in the assessment proceedings the assessing officer comes to a conclusion that the interest expenses are not bogus. So whether in that case with the same notice the assessing officer can make the addition or the disallowance under section 40A clause IA on the allegation that the assessee has not deducted the TDS on that interest payment. In the present case, the assessment year involved was 13-14 and 14-15. The learned assessing officer recorded the reasons that the assessee has claimed some bogus interest expenses in the books of accounts, and accordingly the notice under section 148 was issued. When the assessment proceedings were going on, the assessee was confronted and was asked to explain the genuineness of the interest expenses, and the assessee submitted all the evidences, and after pursuing those evidences the assessing officer made a view that the interest expenses are actually paid by the assessee for the purposes of the business, and restricted himself not to make the addition on account of any interest expenses. But at the same time, the AO noticed that the assessee has not deducted the TDS on this interest payment, so he made the disallowance under section 40 clause A clause IA for non-deduction of TDS on that interest payment. When the matter was before the CIT appeal, the assessee took a ground that the assessing officer misapplied the provisions of explanation 3 to section 147. The reason for saying this was that because the assessing officer has not made any addition for the interest expenses for which the notice was issued, and according to assessee, explanation 3 to section 147 gives power to the assessing officer to make the addition on those issues also which come to his notice during the assessment proceedings. But that explanation 3 to section 147 holds good only on those cases where the addition is also made for the item for which the notice under section 148 was issued to the assessee. The assessee plea was that because my main reason has been dropped, so now the assessing officer cannot take the help of explanation 3 to section 147. But the CIT appeal upheld the reopening and upheld the disallowance of section 40A clause IA. When the matter was before the tribunal was with the assessee and said that in the present case, this is not a case of explanation 3 to section 147 because the reason for which the notice under section 148 has been issued has been found incorrect and no disallowance has been made for this. So if the assessing officer wants to make any addition or any disallowance for any other reason, like in the present case for the non-deduction of the TDS under section 40A clause IA, then he should have issued a separate and fresh notice to the assessee to make that disallowance. Friends, this case is very important because it has been seen that when the assessment under section 147 is made, then it happens that the assessing officer is convinced with the reasons for which the notice is issued, but he jumps on the other issues without issuing the fresh notice to the assessee under section 148. At the end of this deliberation. Once again, I am repeating the name of the case. The name of the case is Sunanda Constructions versus Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax, and this case is reported in 127 ITR Tribunal, short notes 27, and the date of the judgment is 19th August 2025. Thank you, friends.